Jacob, why don't you walk me through your resume?
Are you serious?
Excuse me?
What kind of Hunger Games recruiting is this? I mean, you fly me across the country to do something I could have done virtually. I am borderline a hostage. You've been forcing me to stay here for the full 6 hours. I already know I didn't get the job. I butchered the first interview. You know, it's funny, talk about the importance of communicating effectively in the office space. Oh yeah? Why'd you have 6 different people ask me the same question? Let's just say this day has not been super. Just be honest with me, how awkward was I during the lunch portion? I don't know why I asked their thoughts on the Middle East crisis. I also almost died. I choked on my steak and they did the Heimlich maneuver on me. And I'll tell you this, you know why I want to work here? The money. Not the culture, the money. Which honestly is below minimum wage when I take into account the hours. So what am I doing with my life?
All right, Jacob.
Okay, so that was pretty funny. I know most of it was a joke, but I do think that most people, ask some of those questions. They wonder, why am I doing an interview, in-person interview, when we could have just done it virtually? I think sometimes that, since COVID, we got so used to doing Zoom calls, team calls and whatnot, that we think it's the norm now to do it that way, when in fact it's not. I think that we have corrected a little bit, so all interviews don't have to be in person. So some of the initial ones we'll do them Zoom, but ultimately people want to see you face to face. So those days are gone where you do all of your interviews virtually. But I do understand sometimes it does seem no way that we could ask these questions virtually, or we could just have this interview online. The other quick points that I think that he raised that I think that is important for people that's watching the video is the number of people, and not necessarily the number of people, but the number of hours you're going to be at the interview. I mean, in this case, I think that he said it was 5 hours. That's a stressful day. I get it. That's a long time to be at an interview, but it's more common than you can think of. Particularly when you start getting to higher level interviews, when you start getting into higher levels of leadership, management, director level, VP level, etc., you have much longer interviews. One reason is because just in terms of logistics, it's easy to kind of coordinate everybody for that one day. You can commit to that one day, flying you into the office that you can do the interview. It's only one day you have to, get away from home. It's one day that you have to get away from work, what have you. And so you do all of the coordination on that one day. And then, of course, for the interviewers, oftentimes they come from different departments, different levels. And so you can bring them in and you can go ahead and get it all squared away from that one day. The other thing that I would think about when I say you having a 5-hour interview, you want to think that they're bringing people from all different types or all different parts of the organization. I think it's a great deal. I love to get it out of the way, be done with it, and not have to go through 4 separate interviews. Let's just go ahead and knock them all out, man. Let's just schedule them all on Monday. Let's knock them out and we can get it done. One other thing that they're doing is that they are, to some degree, testing your endurance. Being able to sit there and endure through a 4 or 5 hour interview. How consistent are you through that entire interview, going from person 1 that's in maybe sales, going to person 2 that's in operations, person 3 that's in customer service, person 4 that's in marketing, what have you. Can you endure through it, and can you remain consistent, right? And then the other thing I think that they're doing is that they're trying to bounce off I guess you would say, decisions from those stakeholders. They're trying to make sure that on this day that everybody had an opportunity to see you and go through it on that same day. And then they can kind of brainstorm, get feedback. I would say that if you go through that type of interview, you want to make sure that you stay consistent, you stay hydrated. So if you have water, don't be afraid to stop and get some water, or bring some water, or ask for a little something to drink. That is absolutely fine. It's no problem at all. I would encourage you to take notes. take notes throughout the interview process. You go to interview 1, interview 2, interview 3. That is fine. It is okay to take notes throughout the course of the interview. Try your best to finish just as strong as you started. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but try to finish just as strong as you started. And if you have questions, in which you should always have questions, but make sure those questions are tailored to each person. You don't have to randomly ask unique questions to each person, or even ask the same question to each person. But if you have a person that's there from sales, try to ask a sales question. If you have a person that's there from operations, try to ask an operations question. Try to have unique questions for each person, particularly if you're going through individual, separate interviews. The next part I think I remember him talking about is, why do you have multiple people asking the exact same question? Well, the quick answer to that is, all of them again bring different perspectives from the company. If you have a person that's coming from marketing, that person is looking at the organization and looking at you from a different perspective than a person that's coming from customer service, or a person that's coming from operations, right? And so they may ask a similar question, but they're looking for something that's a little bit different, something that's tailored to their part of the organization. So don't be afraid. They're looking for a consistency check, where maybe you said one thing to one person and maybe you said something different to a different person, right? So they want to make sure that you are consistent throughout the process. I guess another thing they want to do is that they want to test and make sure that, what you're saying is truly what you believe. They don't want a person that is going to say one thing to one person because they think that's going to get them the job, and then they go to a different person and they say something different. So again, I would try to be consistent. I would try to take notes, but I wouldn't be hesitant to worry about those questions. Each person is trying to get to know you. Each person wants to know your background. Each person is taking 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever out of their day to talk with you. So they all uniquely want to get to know you and learn more about you. So if periodically they ask you the same question, I think that's okay. And then the last couple things I think that he mentioned was lunch. Oftentimes when you have a 4 or 5 hour interview session, that includes a lunch or a dinner or something like that. So always keep that in mind. I'll make a different video on how to respond during lunch interviews and dinner interviews. But the one thing that I'll say in this setting is that the lunch interview is not about lunch. The dinner interview is not about dinner. So when he talked about eating a steak, well, that's probably not the ideal choice for lunch or for steak during an interview, right? You don't want to have a full full bite of steak in your mouth and you're trying to talk. This interview is about you continuing to get to know them and giving them an opportunity to get to know you in a somewhat less formal setting. So the interview, you go into it with the same mindset, same formality that you would if it was in the office. It is still an interview. It is not about lunch. It's not about the steak. And be careful about the things that you say and some of the off-brand topics that you bring up during an interview. You don't know each person's background, and so you don't know how those jokes or comments may come off. So always keep that in mind. I know that was kind of rambling a little bit, had a lot of points that I wanted to try to cover in that quick snippet, but hope I covered all those that he mentioned. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, and thanks again.